so you guys know what's going to happen. So long story short is that we're going to have about a nice hour of panel discussion together, which will be great. Then we're going to have breakout groups, and Amy's going to kind of talk about those. There's two options outside of this, and Amy's doing 104 and 106. She'll talk about that at the given time when we have our first initial panel discussion. And the third breakout group will actually just stay here, and will basically be an opportunity for us to open up to everyone. We have a mic runner who came from the class of what class are you?
2019.
2019. Awesome.
Thank you.
And then that will offer an opportunity for us to expand the conversation to all of you guys during the breakout session that takes place here. So, but I'll have Amy describe that more when we get to that point. So, I'll make sure the panels have a chance to settle down.
Can we get like a napkin or something?
Oh yeah, can we get a napkin?
Coffee down.
Copy down. What is success? Depends on how you look at coffee. Success is being eligible and having a napkin handy. Awesome. So thank you all for coming. We've actually met a few times before you guys got here. We created quite a camaraderie as a group of 9 here. It's been really a blessing to work with you guys. I'm super excited that we're here and doing the panel. I'm going to kind of just introduce the topic. One thing that's led to a very interesting misunderstanding is although the title is What is Success, a lot of people didn't read the next line, which is talking about how we're actually going to try to break apart this notion and question it and probe it. And no, we're not just going to decide who was most successful in the class. If that's what you came for, you're the exact opposite of that, and I'm sorry. There's somewhere else for you, I don't know where, but it's not here. We're going to actually really tease apart this notion of success and what do we mean by success. We're going to start by having a chance for each panelist to talk a little bit about their journey during 10 years in the real world, which is something that we've all experienced in the last 10 years. It's a little different than we thought. As we said from the survey results, more than half of us ended up somewhere professionally different than we intended to. And I think part of the reason I did this, and for full disclosure, I'm actually 07, 08, so I did this exact same panel last year, and some of the last year's panels are here, which is great. Thank you for coming again. And one of the reasons that we're doing it again is it was really wonderful to create a space for people to talk a little bit more about their journeys, to talk about the parts that we didn't always necessarily talk about when we were at Harvard in regards to, I'm trying to get to this point, instead of like, what are the personal aspects of my journey? Where have things gone wrong? So to begin it, I am going to talk about my segment. Each of us is going to talk about for 5 minutes about our journey before we open it up to all of you. I want to hinge my portion of the talk to kind of almost, it's not really a confession, it's just kind of a reality. During my time at Harvard, I was actually depressed, clinically, for about 2 to 3 years near the end of it. And I say that out loud because I think we should talk about mental health more often in our society. And one of the things that's been really powerful is that when I've said that out loud, a lot of people have talked to me and said, oh my gosh, I had the same experience. I'm really glad, thank you. And the thing I want to talk about my journey, and it does relate to this question of success, is because ironically enough, I think that part of the challenges of my depression was that I felt a lot of different cultural influences here at Harvard. I felt some really different aspects of people saying, oh, to be successful, you need to be really good at on-campus recruiting, or to be successful, you need to go to this particular graduate school. You went to Harvard, now you have to go to this graduate school, etc. And I really had that one influence on me. And that was one of the things that really stuck me down. It's like, I don't think I'm going to make it to X place, whatever that company or school is. And the thing that I want to talk about in regards to my journey is nothing wrong with whoever got to X place, whatever X place is. I'm actually really glad I didn't. I left Harvard with a much lower GPA than I planned on, in part because my last couple of years I was really struggling a lot. None of you guys saw it because I put on that good Harvard mask of like, hey, I'm looking good, but inside I was actually breaking up and falling apart. And I got therapy, which is like one of the most powerful things I recommend to everyone. And that led me on a journey of realizing who I am and accepting who I am and embracing who I am. And not, I went to Harvard, not, I will make this kind of income, or I should get this kind of GPA, but like, I am Brian Gillis, and I am a human being, and this is my life, and this is my story, and this struggle against depression is my journey. That is my idea of success. And that led to a really bold decision. And that was, I was working in finance, and nothing against finance, but I just said, this isn't fitting for me right now. And I quit my job. And I rode my bicycle around the world and almost died. It was a charity fundraiser bicycle trip, and it was powerful, it was meaningful, and I did have a near-death experience on a road in India on my bicycle, almost falling off into a semi-truck. Luckily I fell the wrong way, and my life was spared. But that journey of seeing over 100 countries in the next 3 years was really transformative, because I started realizing I'm meeting all these people in Cambodia and Laos and South Sudan and the Congo and all over the world, and they are not worried about whether or not they're going to make partner at XY firm or get an MBA at an XY company. They're just living their lives. And one of the powerful things for me was I started seeing that families and communities were the core to these people's existences. And I was like asking myself, what is something that's true in my experience? Okay, I went to Harvard and I felt these particular forces. But then when I opened up my heart and my mind to all these experiences across the world during my bicycle trip and then beyond, I continued traveling while building a nonprofit, I started seeing these narratives and these voices, and I was like, what is the one thing that ties this all together? And I realized it was relationships. It wasn't anxieties about what I'm going to make or how I'm going to succeed or how I'm going to be seen by my peers at a particular university. It was, I love my parents, I love my children, I love my siblings, I love my community, whether that be religious or not religious. I love being connected to other people. And that transformed me. And I ended up going back to where I grew up, which is the San Francisco Bay Area, got really involved in building community, built one of the larger Burning Man camps, built a community around that camp, started really building strong relationships, realized that I really wanted to focus on getting romance right and getting the romantic relationship right. And so I went through a few false starts, but really prioritized that as well. And now with my fiance, and I'm really happy with the decisions I made with regards to that. And I really just prioritize relationships. And I'm okay financially, but I definitely think I took sacrifices to do the priorities I now had. And because of my depression in college, and because of my challenges, I learned these insights that life is more than just the number in my bank account or the titles and degrees after my name. And that was a really powerful insight. I'm actually now, it's funny, because if anyone here is being challenged with mental health challenges, I've been through a really interesting cycle. I hated my depression, and then I accepted it as part of my story, whether I like it or not. And now that I realize that my depression and my imperfect GPA and my challenges shot me off in a different direction that I didn't expect, I've gone from acceptance to appreciation. I am so glad I was depressed, because it led me to where I am today. And it led me to my current notion of what success means to me. And that's one that's focused on relationships more than income. But everyone has different stories, and that's my story. And I want to give space now for our panelists to talk about their story. And a reminder for everyone on the panel and off the panel, we're going to talk about some really interesting personal things. Some emotions might come up. Feel free to take a moment if you want to kind of take a moment to plug yourself outside. Maybe that won't happen. But do remember that whatever we say, let's make sure we do say that thing I said at the end, which is, and throughout, these are our stories. So, a lot of different narratives are here. Let's make sure we speak for our journeys. And we'd love to hear from your journeys after we're done with the panel as well. So, thank you. And with that, Deval, would you like to start?